Well, talk about another noteworthy news day. It looks like we finally got a big missing piece out of the PlayStation 5 puzzle, and that's the disassembly video we were promised a few months back now. And so we just recently learned a lot about the inner workings of this platform. We're going to go over all those details. But additionally, Sony also told us about some updates to the PSN Trophy system that are hitting later today or tomorrow in Europe. And you know I'm jazzed up about this, so we're going to talk about that as well. Now, starting with the teardown video, it's actually rather short, about 7 minutes long, and this is 5 minutes shorter than the PS4 Pro teardown video, if you remember that. And there is a reason for why it's shorter, but this was filmed in the same manner of that video, where it's very clinical and sterile looking, stoic. I guess more so for this because, well, it's a white room matching that white PlayStation 5 console design, the lineup of accessories. We're seeing this white characteristic mixed with blues and blacks for a lot of their product imagery. But to recap all the details that we did learn, and starting off with something that we already did know, is the ports on the console. So if you didn't know this, you know it now. USB-A and USB-C on the front. On the rear, you have 2 more USB-A, so that's 3 total. Those are high speed. 1 Ethernet, 1 HDMI, and the AC port. So the base, it's actually screwed in, and that's how it's securely fastened to the console, so that's good to see. And if you do recall, you need to be hooked onto the back as well, so that's additional support. You can actually stow away that screw into the stand when it's not in use, and the stand intuitively twists around to not only store that screw, but readjust for vertical or horizontal orientation. And this is also where the cap will be stored, so you can use this little cap to plug the hole for where the stand would have initially screwed into the PlayStation 5. Both sides of the console are removable very easily, so you lift from one corner and it slides right off. No security screws there. That's very notable here. We'll talk more about this in a second. The middle section has small pockets to collect dust, so Sony actually recommends vacuuming these out over time. Taking the panels off is indeed where you'll find a spot to install an additional M2 drive, so we were wondering where that was going to go. You will have to take off these panels and dig a little deep into the system to install additional storage, and that's what's notable here. If you had any concerns, this is in fact additional storage. The standard SSD on PS5 is soldered onto the board, so you get 825 gigabytes no matter what, and whatever additional M2 drive you buy, that's more storage on top of that. The fan is 120 millimeters in diameter, 45 millimeters thick, pulls in air from both sides of the console. The disk drive is covered with 2 layers of insulators to lower vibration noise from spinning disks. Liquid metal cooling is in fact the option Sony is going with. They've apparently spent 2 years working on this method. Finally, we have the heatsink, which still uses a heat pipe like PS3 and PS4, but with its immense size and shape, it functions and has similar performance to a vapor chamber actually. And so that's basically it. Now, the reason why this video is shorter than the PS4 Pro one is because this thing is ridiculously simple to take apart. I was shocked watching this. Like, it was cool to learn about what's inside of it, but honestly, I was just like, wow, that's it for screws? I mean, are they skipping screws here? Or this is very straightforward. And I've taken apart a lot of PlayStation consoles, a lot of consoles in general, and I don't really service consoles too often. Just that I'll break into something if something needs to be replaced that's easily swappable if it's, you know, plug and play. But this is so easy to break into. Now, like those little dust pockets, while that's cool, I don't think that's, I mean, they've got to have something that tells them that that really works well, but dust is going to get everywhere. So I feel like that's a solid effort, but I can't see that working too well. But that doesn't even really matter, because if it's this easy to break into this machine and even go further beyond the initial user upgradable part or user swappable part, then you should really have no problem being comfortable with cleaning this thing out. Now, this brings us to our next observation, which is that top and bottom panel easily coming off with no security screws, no regular screws. We even see what looks like the warranty sticker inside that middle portion of the console. That would be your cutoff of digging further in if you care about having that factory warranty. So Sony absolutely expects people to take off that top and bottom panel, and the fact that it is so accessible implies that yes, maybe we will actually see those swappable faceplates, which initially I was skeptical of because, quite frankly, we know this is a large console and we've seen swappable faceplates before for other machines and doesn't really pan out that well. Those initiatives die out very quickly, and the problem with PlayStation 5 and it being such a large console is warehouse space, retail space. You can't let these things sit for too long when really most people just don't end up buying them or using them. So it looks like they may plan for something like this. What might make sense is lower volume, limited edition runs of faceplates when like a limited edition console comes out, so they'll sell the console brand new if you want to do that, or you can spend, let's say, $50 to maybe $100 for the faceplates, or they could do a $150 bundle with a game, and then you get the faceplates with it. I could see this being very lucrative and profitable for them, and it's something that it would be a limited allocation, so it would go out fairly quickly depending on how popular that particular game is. That's a model that could probably work, but I can't see just random colors like red, blue, and yellow sitting on the shelf long term for people to buy whenever they're ready. But it's still notable that it's very easy, and we can see that there's a lot of give and flex to that where you actually pry off. The fact that that's encouraged and what you have to do to get inside of it, that kind of quells some fears of those aggressive overhangs chipping or breaking off. I mean, that was a worry, and I still, to a degree, feel like it's a worry because you have to pry to get it off, but it looks like there's a lot of flex and give to the plastic, so it looks like Sony definitely thought of that. As for the actual cooling solutions, this is what we really want to learn about. The fan is somewhat predictable. We saw from the console design inherently that it's going to be pulling in air from the outer portions of that center section, pushing it out from the back, but it looks like we've got a combination of everything here working towards what will hopefully be a quiet PlayStation 5, and that's why we saw some good results from those initial impressions from the Try PlayStation 5 event in Japan. Liquid metal cooling, so we had a patent for this a few months back, and we discussed the possibility of this being in PlayStation 5. It sounds very exotic and foreign, but in recent years it is becoming more commonplace, or at least more widely accepted as a viable option over your traditional thermal paste, and that has been the biggest problem with consoles. Whether it's PlayStation or any other manufacturer, usually they use a low-grade thermal paste, and so you can usually buy a high-grade thermal paste that's rated to last anywhere from 5, 6, upwards of 7 years, and I always personally recommend for your consoles that are getting a little too loud, and that's after, a year or two, something like that. That's typical, right? Because the current thermal paste that the manufacturer is using starts to dry out, and that's why your console tends to get very hot very quickly. So the fan, you can clean the fan all day, you can take the dust out, but the thermal paste is what you should really replace there. And so now we've got liquid metal cooling in PlayStation 5, and there are some benefits and drawbacks to this. Of course, the immediate benefit is that much greater efficiency with heat transfer, and so this is going to get the heat down by a considerable amount compared to what would be even a high-grade thermal paste. It's just that there are some drawbacks, and I'd imagine the 2 years that Sony spent working on this is just making sure that it's viable as a long-term option and that it doesn't run into any issues, because it is possible for this stuff to spill out and it could easily damage the PCB, the heat sink, whatever it touches. That's going to be a huge issue. So of course, from the footage we saw, it looks like it sits in its own little dish surrounded by what looks like some foam or something like that. I don't know. I'd imagine that it's a little more proprietary in how they want to make sure that it doesn't actually escape its little chamber there. And long-term is the huge concern there. I think nowadays people are really wondering how liquid metal works in long-term PC builds, and we don't have a whole lot of data just yet suggesting that it's a great option that'll stand the test of time, but initially at least this is very encouraging. And then we've got that heat sink, which is so massive and large and bizarre looking that it apparently functions or has similar performance to a vapor chamber. Now, an actual vapor chamber is much more efficient at actually capturing and moving around heat, whereas traditional heat pipes can only move heat in one direction, and the fact that they are pipes makes it difficult to spread or cover amongst an area to actually capture all that heat. So for vapor chambers, it covers a wider area, it can move heat in any direction. That's the benefit there. It's usually more expensive for this kind of cooling solution, and well, this goes right into what we've been hearing about PlayStation 5, that it has a more expensive cooling solution. So we're seeing liquid metal cooling, we're seeing what looks like an option that functions or has similar performance to a vapor chamber. I think that's probably how they side-skirted around doing a full-on vapor chamber in PlayStation 5, and we'll probably have more informed takes about this thing once the console actually comes out. But perhaps the biggest takeaway here is that you've got a little bit of everything, all working towards the common goal of making sure that your PS5 is quiet and hopefully doesn't run too hot, with better long-term performance over what we've seen with previous PlayStation consoles. You've got the variable frequencies that are tied directly to a set power limit. You've got the liquid metal, this large heat sink, this enormous fan that pulls in air from all around the console more or less and pushes it out the back. It seems like what we've been hearing has been accurate, that PlayStation 5 is really doubling down on making sure that it doesn't sound like a Boeing 747. Now moving on to the trophy updates that were recently announced on the PlayStation blog. This was totally out of left field, and to be honest, I was not expecting any significant changes to the trophy system outside of what I already know about the platform's UI features. But what we learned today and what will be changed today is your PSN Trophy Level. So on the PlayStation blog, Sony announced the leveling structure of trophies will change, and that will reflect your current level on PSN. So for years, we've had a PSN level cap of 100, and once you go past level 10, this is where your trophy progress really starts to slow down and taper off. And even for me, I've got 157 some odd platinum trophies, and I'm only at level 36, and it takes a lot of games to level up beyond just 36, which I haven't done just yet. So starting later today, updated from Sony's side, the level range will actually be 1 to 999, meaning trophy values have changed so that what you earn levels you up faster. And considering we've had the trophy system since 2008, this means the plan change will retroactively raise and adjust your PSN level to the new system. So as an example, if you're level 12 right now on PSN, you'd shoot up to around level 200 or the early 200s, around there. And your actual trophy icon will now be tiered. So previously it's been that boring star symbol, and I've complained about this before, it's so bland and uninspired. And now there will be different icons based on what your level actually is. So you've got tiered icons from bronze all the way up to 999 with the platinum, and this change will be reflected on all PlayStation systems. It's from their side, so this won't even need a firmware update, it just will show up. It'll be on all PlayStation systems, the PlayStation app, myplaystation.com. This will go live later tonight in North America, tomorrow in Europe, and it's also confirmed that trophy tracking will be a part of PlayStation 5. This is one key area that I knew about for the platform, and so it's great to see that, well, that will be a part of it. Just a matter of how in-depth it actually is, but still great to hear, of course. I'm all about the trophy changes, and I'm on board for sure. I want to know if there's a notification for actually leveling up, because if it's going to happen so frequently, and that is the thing, if you're going from a range from 1 to 999, that's incredibly aggressive. That means your casual consumer is going to be leveling up to 50 to 100 very easily, and I would like it to be more meaningful where when you do level up, that's an actual notification outside of the single trophies that you pop left and right. So that would be cool to see, and have some different trophy sound play out for leveling up. I think that would be really cool. I'm just glad that there's actual meaningful changes and updates to the trophy system, and this is as big as it gets, really. I mean, there's not much more you can do outside of changing the value system for PSN and adding tiered icons now. Sure, the tiered icons are not that much a cut above the star symbol, but I'll take what I can get, really. Anyway, it's great that we're hearing more and more about PlayStation 5 on a regular basis. We're 6-7 weeks away now, and so our elephant in the room at this point is the user interface, and that is a very large one, because, and what we'll probably see is Sony just put out a somewhat bland FAQ, actually, and this is after the UI reveal. They'll put out an FAQ really answering all the miscellaneous questions that you may have that wouldn't really be warranted for what would be individual PlayStation blog posts. So what streaming services will be available day one, which I would imagine it would be most of what is available on PlayStation 4. You know, what devices work, you know, what features are available, can it accept, can it read regular files? Like, some of these things we had to wait for PlayStation 4, right? And that was an expectation I warned to you all about PS5, is that oftentimes when we see a brand new platform that has a user interface built from the ground up, you actually, because there's firmware updates, you actually have to wait for what you had previously on the last platform. And so things like custom backgrounds or certain streaming services or very simple things that you think should be there day one were put on the back burner so that they could be delivered later on. And I hope that isn't too bad on PS5, but there is a lot that we still need to find out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this news update video. We still have Let's Talk PlayStation on Friday, although that might not be too long, but that's okay. Last week was a 30-minute video, and it's nice sometimes to have these middle-of-the-week videos to lower what I have to do on Friday, because there is so much news getting closer to PS5, but that's alright. We'll talk about all the important details as they come up. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Mystic Ryan. And that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.